Good afternoon. Like always, I'll start with a quick assessment of our last performance. Just saw growth in certain areas that you need to see this time of year if you're a team that's trending in the right direction. On offense, I think you can speak to the young guys emerging and making the necessary plays in those significant moments. And it's good that it's starting to come really from multiple places. A week ago, we were standing here talking about James Washington rising up and making the necessary plays for us at the receiver position. In the last game, I thought Diontae did similar things. So it's back-to-back weeks. We're talking about young wide receivers rising up and making significant plays, and it's important for us. It's also important for us that it's coming from different places. That collective and individual growth and development is critical for us, particularly because we're in the circumstances that we are from a player availability standpoint, but just as you get into this portion of the year, man, plays got to be capable of being delivered from a variety of people and places. And so that contribution is significant. I think the same thing could be said about the growth and development of Benny Snell. We've seen a lot over him over the last month or so, and showing a run demeanor that's attractive, and ability to show featured runner-like characteristics and mentality. It's been good. Just the general growth and development in Devlin and at the quarterback position as he able to gain some more traction and get some more exposure. I thought he's doing a good job of staying to the script, if you will, but he's also doing a good job of being thoughtfully aggressive at the appropriate times too. I thought you saw that in the 2-minute drill when we responded to their touchdown drive and was able to put together a field goal drive before the half. I thought you saw it on the possession downs in our last possession of the game when we were working to maintain possession of the ball, and he did what was necessary from the quarterback standpoint in those moments. And I think those are the moments that define a young passer, those situational moments, those plays that are weighted a little bit differently. When you got a line to gain, when time is a factor. And he's done a nice job of continuing to be the guy that we know even in the midst of those circumstances. And I think that bodes well for him and for us. On the defensive side of the ball, I thought we continued to, number one, get the ball and rise up in those significant moments. I thought that was doubly important because we acknowledged during the course of preparation that the Cardinals were a team that did not turn the ball over. Murray was a guy that did not throw interceptions. He'd only thrown 6 all year. So it was reasonable in preparation to assume that was going to be tough sledding for us in terms of using that as a catalyst for a winning formula for us, which we had done in recent weeks. And they found ways to apply pressure and get those guys to do what they hadn't done, which is turn the ball over, and that was significant in terms of us getting the win. We got a splash play from special teams. I talked a lot about production in special teams, solid kick coverage, solid punting. Boz has been really solid and consistent all year. The fact that we hadn't discussed him at all really speaks to how solid he's been. But to provide splash, that punt return was significant. We've been working hard toward it. It felt like we had been gaining some traction, but the proof is in the pudding. So to be able to deliver and finish that play and run one back, I thought was good, not only for Diontae, but just for us as a unit, to provide splash for our team and just obviously as a team. Another positive thing from the game, we didn't suffer a lot from an injury standpoint. I'll outline some injury things before we move on to the Bills. Guys with current injuries that we expect to participate this week in practice and let that participation be our guide is James Conner coming off his shoulder injury and Juju coming off of his knee. I don't know what their anticipated practice participation is tomorrow as I stand here right now, but those guys are expected to participate in practice at least in some capacity and probably sooner rather than later in the week. And we'll look at the quality of that work and the ramifications of the aftermath of that work in terms of talking about their availability. Some in-game injuries of note. Jalen Samuels had a groin injury sustained in the game. That's being evaluated today. Don't have a lot of information about that. And Vance McDonald is in the protocol, so we'll wait to hear his availability as he pushes through that element or injury circumstance. Now talking about Buffalo, looking at Buffalo, and I'll start on their offense. I think The first thing that you look at or jumps out at you is the mobility of Allen, and not only the ways that it challenges you in a structured setting, but also in an ad-lib-like way. I think they do an awesome job schematically of design quarterback runs that keeps you off balance. Some of them are situational, some of them are red zone oriented, some of them are possession downs, but their prudent use of his mobility from a quarterback design run standpoint is really challenging, but also his prudent use of his running ability in the form of extending plays or scrambling or utilizing his legs to win downs that don't develop fluidly. I think that is going to be big time challenging for us or anyone that plays against him. He's got over 600 yards rushing on the season. I think he's got 8 touchdowns on the ground. Couple that with all the other weaponry that they have. They got a sound running game when the young runner from Florida Atlantic, Singletary, and also obviously the Grizzly veteran and Frank Gore, who I just got an awesome amount of respect for. They got a solid running back tandem and group. TJ Yeldon is the third runner. They got quality talent and depth in that position. The quarterback mobility element of it is something that really takes it over the top and makes it challenging. On the outside, man, John Brown is having probably his best year. He's making a bunch of quality splash plays, and I think Cole Beasley is the type of guy that really gives you headaches on possession downs and inside. And they got a bunch of other complementary guys that really provide splash and round out their attack in a lot of ways. Western PA young man Robert Foster is a big play guy, reverse guy, field stretcher for him. I think they're getting quality work out of the tight end position as well. Young guy Knox out of Ole Miss is playing really well, been really impressed with his tape, and he's supported by Grizzly veteran and Lee Smith, former Marshall guy that's been around over a decade and really got a solid reputation as a line of scrimmage winner and run blocker, a type of guy that's really big for a tight end, a guy that's capable of really getting after outside linebackers. Our outside linebackers will have a full day's work in terms of winning the end of the line in the run game against the likes of Lee Smith. On the defensive side of the ball, man, they're playing great, to be quite honest with you. They're the third-ranked defense in the league. They make splash plays. They challenge you in terms of being able to move the ball fluidly via the run. They challenge you if you're trying to move the ball via the pass. They got quality men and a bunch of people that they play up front. They get production from a lot of places. Their sack total is impressive. I think they got close to 40, 38 or so in the season. But just the way it's spread around the vast number of people is really challenging. They pressure a lot. They bring secondary people. They bring safeties. They bring nickels. They really challenge you and keep you off balance that way. Can't say enough about young Edmonds in the middle of the thing. He makes plays at all levels. He's a sideline-to-sideline player and tackler. He's a capable blitzer. He had an interception last week. I've known Sean McDermott for a long time, man. That guy is a quality coach. Leslie Frazier, same thing. They've got a relationship that probably spans back 20 years, and you see the product of that type of continuity and that type of understanding, the type of performances that they're putting out. So we're really excited about being in a 5-star matchup, man, a game that gets flexed, and we respect that, and we're humbled to be a part of it. We look forward to seeing Steeler Nation out there at Heinz Field, and now for us it's about getting singularly focused on putting together a good formula that puts guys in position to make plays and working them in that direction so that they can make the necessary plays to produce victory. And I'm excited about that process as well. Questions?
You've been using 4 different running backs throughout the process here without James. When and if he's back into the mix, how does that workload get distributed?
That's a big if. And I think that's something that we're going to sort out as we push through the week. I'm always a guy that's one foot in front of the other. I don't like the hypothetical discussions. I don't like the contingency plans. It is a waste of time. We're going to work the guys that have been working that we know are healthy, and as he proves his health to us, and then we'll consider the ways that we will utilize him. Obviously, if he's got a clean bill of health and he's prepared, we know what James is capable of, but we'll ponder those things as they're presented to us in an effort not to waste time with hypotheticals.
What stepped out to you about Kareth? What have you liked about what Kareth has shown?
He's done a nice job when given an opportunity. I think we're still getting to know him. And when you don't have a big body of work, I think that's a couple things you should acknowledge. We're getting to know him, but it's also important that you acknowledge that he's getting to know himself. It's not like he has prior NFL experience prior to him getting here. And so he's getting to know himself as well. Hopefully he's getting better rapidly. I think it's a reasonable expectation when a guy is at the infancy of his career to expect substantial gains as he steps in stadiums, particularly week in and week out. So guys like him that's getting an opportunity to play week in and week out, it's reasonable to expect not only us to get to further know them and what they're capable of, but also it's reasonable to expect that to improve and improve rapidly. Guys like him and Deion Kane got an opportunity to really get better in a short period of time because that's a natural thing.
Mike, have you got enough time in terms of Kareth White to determine if he's got issues in pass protection, and does he catch the ball well?
You know, it's really irrelevant whether or not he's capable in that area or not. We've got some guys that really are, that are available to us. Jalen has been really solid in that area. Edmonds has been really solid in that area. And so that growth will only be, challenged or really needed as if some of those guys are less than available. Hadn't evaluated him in that area because really we just had issues in other areas that have been more prominent.
Mike, you often talk about the growth from year 1 to year 2 with rookies. Can you also see that from month to month, September, to December now?
I think exposure is good, provided there's a couple caveats to that. It's not too much exposure, and too much exposure can be negative in young guys, and that's why we've been thoughtful about the exposure of these people. That's why we don't play Devin Bush in all packages, although he has the talent level to play in all packages. That's why we're thoughtful about the things that we've asked Diontae to do. He doesn't play 60 snaps a game and has not, although he's been available to us, because we wanted to manage that exposure, because too much exposure is negative. But also we realize that, as we push into game, 14, that most of these guys, unless they played at Alabama or somewhere, are in uncharted territory. And so we're thoughtful about that exposure. We want them to be young people on the rise as we get to this portion of the season. Sometimes that is not within your control. Sometimes availability or lack of availability of others dictates that. But when given an opportunity, we like to be thoughtful about the long-range growth and development of these guys so that we're having these type of discussions in December. That we're talking about those guys being young men on the rise as opposed to guys that are hanging on by a thread.
Talk about these young men. How is the process, how is the reward of coaching and teaching guys who are experiencing their first success different than when you've got guys who've had lots of success?
I really don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. The goal week in and week out is to produce victory. And so as long as it does that, all the other little side discussions or evaluation elements of it is, way down the totem pole.
Having just played Kyler Murray, and to your comments about how they utilize Allen, is he deployed in running the football in a similar manner to that, and are your defensive players' skills sharpened in that regard, having just practiced for it?
There's probably more design runs in Buffalo, to be honest with you, than Arizona. So we're probably going to be challenged more in that area than we were a week ago. He's in year 2 of his career, in year 2 in Buffalo, and obviously Murray is in year 1, so the depths of the foundation or the understanding is probably reasonably further down the road, and I think that's evident when you look at the video.
Was his ability to run this obvious coming out of college, if you guys looked at him very much?
He was in that group that was at the top of the draft. I didn't waste a lot of time looking at those guys. Everybody knows in that draft I was looking at safeties anyway.
Mike, you mentioned Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott's relationship, but how do you see yours with Randy and Butts aiding in the season in particular?
Same thing. I've been around them guys a long time since we all were young men. None of that's the truth anymore. But time spent, relationships aid you, because most of the time it's not a rerun when you face adversity. If you got a shared experience together that you can call upon or draw upon, usually it helps you when you face current circumstances.
Mike, when it comes to the Devlin Hodges signing bonus, I've heard all types of comparisons, but I want to hear from you. Do you think he might be one of the better bargains during this new millennium for the NFL?
I don't know what his bonus was, and I don't know what other people's bonus is, so that would not be an accurate assessment by me. I don't care about what means these guys get here. I don't look at them and see dollar signs. When I'm making decisions about their contributions, I don't compare one man's ability based on his bonus to another man's ability. And I think that our guys find comfort in that. I think they embrace that approach. They're not limited in terms of what they can do for us because of dollars and cents. He's a capable man. He's sitting in the room. He's having an opportunity to prepare, and we view it as such.
Mike, you mentioned Juju and James probably getting back out there this week. How much does this offense need those two guys right now?
A lot.
In your career, you've had in Tampa Bay, earlier in Pittsburgh, you've had defenses that perhaps you won because of, not just with those defenses. What's the common thread when you have a game-changing defense?
I think the type of game-changing defenses that you talked about, those reputations are built and really solidified in December and in January, in particular January. So, I don't think that discussion involves us. Those other defenses, they rise up in them significant moments. They deliver in those significant moments, and they dominate versus quality opponents in January.
Joe Hayden's had back-to-back kind of game-sealing interceptions in the last 2 weeks. Is he doing anything different that's helping him be in these situations, or what is he doing?
Not from my perspective, but he's probably better equipped to answer that than I. Joe is just a quality professional. He prepares all the time. He has a systematic approach to that preparation, and I really think it puts him in position to have a high floor, to be opportunistic, to be the guy that's in that spot in that significant moment. I don't think there's anything mystical about those plays. I think you create your fortune, and he's a guy that continually puts himself in position to be fortunate.
Help your defensive backs as a whole to have a guy like that that's setting the tone on the field and in the meeting room?
It's critical, but also the strength is in the pack. You could also attribute those comments to Steven Nelson, who has less splash plays, but has been equally as consistent from a performance standpoint, and really equally as consistent from a systematic preparation standpoint. Just can't say enough about those two guys and how their professionalism and maturity permeates throughout not only their position group but the unit.
Coach, what do you attribute Bud Dupree's career season this season?
I just think guys evolve, man. I think it's reasonable when a guy's in his mid-20s and he's healthy to play the best ball of his life. He has both youth and experience. And I think that's what you're looking at in the form of Bud Dupree, but I think you're looking at that, in the form of many potential people that you could cite.
Turnovers and getting after the passer are some of the defining characteristics of your defensive success so far this year. What are those traits or elements that apply to Buffalo and why they've been so good on defense?
They do it a little bit differently than we do. They're a 4-down group and things of that nature. They do it how we do it. We do it. They do it how they do it. We do it how we do it. I hadn't spent a lot of time thinking about it from that perspective, to be honest with you.
You mentioned the development of Devlin Hodges. How much have you seen Matt Sims take a role in that, with Randy having to run the whole offense?
Randy is very involved in quarterback play. Matt assists him, and nothing has changed based on who's under center in that regard.
Steve Nelson, he played inside and outside in Kansas City. What did you see about him that thought he'd be a really good fit as an outside corner here?
Oftentimes, our interest in people in free agency usually goes back to our interest in them in the draft, because we build our team primarily through the draft and we supplement in free agency. And really just like Steven Nelson in Mobile when he came out of school. He was one of those guys that played in the Senior Bowl, and you get an up-close and personal look at them from a practice standpoint at field level in those environments. And I just thought the same things that I see from him day to day here. The professionalism, the attention to detail, the mature approach was evident at the Senior Bowl. He had only been an outside corner at Oregon State, and the Senior Bowl was his first exposure to inside play. So that's what attracted me to him, just how he took to that. I guess Kansas City recognized it as well. They drafted him. He goes, and the first portion of his career has played a lot inside in Kansas City. So I think our interest started there and kind of, continued from there. But that's that's not unusual for us. Usually if we're interested in somebody in free agency and so forth, it's because we had an interest in them when they came out.
2 years ago when you went to Virginia Tech and you took the Edmonds brothers out, do you remember which one talked more?
The mom. Cookie Edmonds runs the show.
What about Sean McDermott when he was young? He was a freshman when you were a senior?
No, I'm 2 years ahead of him. We played together for 2 years. Sean's a class guy in every way, man. Love him. Can't say enough about him. Been the same guy. I've known him since I was probably 20 and he was 18. He was more mature than I was. He's the same guy. Class guy in every way.
Could you tell that he wanted to be a coach?
You know, I don't know that I was even thinking that way then. Maybe he was, but I was just trying to have a little fun.
Your head coach is Jimmy Laycock is coming to the game this week. What does it mean to have him see both you guys coach against each other?
Man, it's just an honor, man. I'm sure Sean shares the same mentality about Coach Laycock, man. Coach is a blueprint for me and always has been. Just his approach to coaching, to teaching, to instructing, the supreme confidence that he has not only in his plan but you know, the process and the way that he relays that confidence to players and challenges players, and it's just he's always been kind of a blueprint for me. And man, it'll be an honor to have him here. Can't imagine him actually having an off weekend. This is the first year he's not coaching, so I'm gonna be excited about it.
You've used that phrase high floor now a couple times in recent press conferences to describe a lot of your players. Has that been a goal, an agenda on the part of the organization to get guys who are that steady and reliable at that level, even more so in recent years as you've procured talent for the draft and free agency?
I don't know that there's been an increased emphasis on that. It's just always an emphasis on that. What you want is the potential for splash, but also day in and day out, you want to see steady, consistent performance. And that's what I mean when I say a high floor. You want a high floor, but you also want a potential for a high ceiling. You don't want a lot of variance. And so I just acknowledge it when I see it, particularly as it pertains to solid guys like Joe and Steve.
Like I asked Joe Hayden a couple weeks ago about the coaching mechanism here. He said this is the first place he ever played that the head coach had a meeting with the defensive backs like twice a week. And so with that, I mean, how do you gauge when to meet with players and when not to meet with players?
Man, if I'm awake and I'm in this building and they're in the building, I'm meeting with somebody. You know, I think it's important. I live by a creed, no job too small. We all got to roll our sleeves up and be prepared to ante up and kick in. And but those are just words. The actions are more important, and I like to display that. So I got a bunch of these little personal relationships that I have. And so I meet with DBs, I meet with linebackers, I meet with quarterbacks on Wednesday mornings at 7:30. You could go on and on. There's not anything unique or new that's happening in that regard. We're not paid by the hour. Our job is to win, and I enjoy what I do.
What have you seen from Mason and how he's handled his work, his role these past couple weeks?
Man, he's been extremely professional, but not that I'm surprised by that. His preparation has been really solid. He's doing all the things that you expect a solid dude and solid professional to do.
Is Zach Banner athletic enough to use his fullback on the goal line?
No.
When you talk about Devlin being more thoughtfully aggressive, the last few weeks, what other gains have you seen in him? Is he showing more confidence? Is he?
I'm not looking for a bunch of gains. I'm just looking for him to meet the challenges that each week holds. The gains are going to come if he's focused on that.
Anyone else?
Coach, a lot has been said today about your secondary. You know, of course, with the addition of Baker Fitzpatrick, Nelson, Joe Hayden, even Barron had a sack against Arizona last week. How much of that success do you attribute to the addition of Terrell Austin in the offseason?
You know, I hadn't looked at it from a percentage standpoint. He's been significant, but so has some of the other new significant things you mentioned. And I think somewhere in there, the collective lies the answers. You know, we don't care who gets the credit. You know, we just trying to do what's required to win. Contributions going to come from every man, those that have helmets, those that have clipboards, and we're going to need all of them.
You said maybe a month and a half ago, you didn't want Zach Banner to be a cult hero. Do you maybe have two cult heroes now in Zach and Duck Hodges?
I don't have any control over that, so I don't waste a lot of time thinking about it, to be honest with you.
We used to say defense wins championships. The last 2 years, we're talking about all these fancy offenses. With what you're doing this last month and a half or so, do you as a defensive coach have any particular feelings about this?
I've always felt good about good defenses controlling the outcome of significant games. I believe that that's an axiom of football. I mean, I think that's never going to change. I think if you got a good defense, you got a chance in any circumstance.
Coach, with this possibly being the last game at Heinz Field for the season, is there any message that you have for Steeler Nation?
Man, we just appreciate our fans and our fan support. I think it's Fan Appreciation Day, and we want to show that formally with the Fan Appreciation Day. But more than anything, they inspire us. We're looking forward to entertaining them, and we're looking forward to getting assistance from them in terms of creating a climate that's difficult for Buffalo as well.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys.